What's going on, YouTube? Hey, I'm going to do a whole episode, if you will, just on my plumbing stuff. I feel like I'd like to do stuff on electrical, but at the behest of my wife, let me just say it that way, that I'm not going to. And to reiterate, where I live, you can do this. It's fine. I am going to have all of this inspected, air quotes, by people who are really tradesmen. So I've got a plumber who's going to look at what I've done, make sure I haven't done anything that's going to harm anyone. And the same thing with electrical. Electrical's probably more important in that regard. But just know, for you keyboard warriors or in the comments, whatever, like those two things. Where I'm at, this is perfectly fine. 2, I'm going to go above and beyond, have other people inspect it. And so I'm going to show you kind of the process I'm doing for plumbing. I'm going to completely skip electrical because there's a bunch of videos about that. I might link some of them in the description of this, but let me go ahead and show you kind of an overview of what I'm planning. Here's my little notebook. It says all kinds of detailed stuff about what I'm doing here. And I've kind of changed things up a little bit, but in my mind, it's always good to kind of think about each line and what you're doing so that you can design a system and organize it in such a way that it's easy to see, like to troubleshoot and keep things straight, and it looks neat and tidy. And so this is kind of my first go at that. I've changed this stuff and I'll show you in a little bit. But in essence, I'm using a branch system with manifolds and PEX pipe. So this is going to change because this isn't the layout I'll show you in a minute, but the same thing is here. I've got a supply line. We'll probably put a valve and probably reduce it from PEX B 1 inch to PEX A 3/4 inch because they have about the same flow rate. And then I've got 2 manifolds. I've got, and I'm changing this up. I did the 3 manifold on this setup, but I've got a split now where it doesn't go through it to the water heater. It has its own split here, and then it'll go water heater to the hot manifold. And so I've got on the cold manifold, I got the washer, the tub, the lav, the bathroom, the toilet, and I'm actually adding the pot filler in the kitchen to that. And then the kitchen sink, dishwasher, and ice machine will be on one. And then I've got the front and the rear outdoor frost-free spigots on the others. And I've already done these, and I've done the kitchen cold. And so the hot will be similar. It'll be washer, tub, shower combo, the bathroom lav, and then the kitchen sink. And so I've got these manifolds that are supplying those two. So it's 3/4 in and then half out. And this is called a branch system, branch and trunk, I think. And this gives you the best equalization of flow. So the thing, like if you've ever rented an old apartment and you take a shower and somebody flushes the toilet and it burns you to death, it will avoid that kind of nonsense. And so this stuff is cool. There's a few reasons why. Because these are 90 bins. And so every single one of these, from this point to the supply line, like these angle stops is what they're called, is one piece of pipe. So the only failure points, well, you could fail anywhere, but they normally fail at the fittings, so it'll be here, which is going to be easy accessible, and here, which will be outside the wall as well, too. So I like it better when you do a copper stub out because it's easier to change. But for this one, I just did it this way, and I've done it this way before. And the stuff I'm using is called PEX A or expansion PEX. And let me show you how that works out now. Okay, so I'm under the house right now and just kind of give you a run through of what I've got going on. This is the back wall of the house. You can see the pipe there. My laser's beeping because the battery is going dead, but you can't really see it on camera, but I've set up a laser so that I can get a reasonably straight line. I'm not too concerned. I mean, you can tell there's a little bit of a bump, and then I kind of crossed it over there because I forgot about something. But anyway, these lines will go all the way to the laundry room, hot and cold. I'll space them out and secure them to the the joist there. And that, like I said before, the cool thing about this stuff is you don't have to put 90 fittings in it. You can just use these bend guides, I think they're called. And so even up into the wall. And that one I think is that's to the water. And they look like this. They've got this little end, and then you expand it with the expansion gun. I'll show you that here in a minute. And that's how it goes. So I'm about to add another line, and it'll go up into where the manifold setup is. So I'm going to set these up and just do it, kind of show you what I've got, and then show you how the expansion gun works. So the kind of PEX I'm using is called PEX A or expansion PEX. Some people call it Uponor, which is like a brand name. I think of the first people that made it, but it has these little sleeves that go over the pipe, and this little gun expands it. And so for this one, I'm just putting a cap in, and then later it'll be a drop ear and you just cut it off and do the same thing. But all the fittings attached in the same way. So I'll show you. You get this gun, and the one I have came with 3 different sizes of head that you put on it. It's a Milwaukee, and it's 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch. And so this is half, but you put it in there and expand it. And I have the old version of the gun where you have to twist it. The new ones, they twist themselves, but you just got to get it expanded out. You just expand it out, and then you put the cap in or whatever the fitting is. And sometimes you have to hold it, but these will just stay there. And so in the next 10 minutes, it'll shrink down to about as small as it gets. And this stuff is really fast. If you ever try to use the crimp kind in places where you can't get to it, it's a pain. So I really like this system. I want to show you some detail for roughing in the washer box. There's a few things that go with code. I'm going to flash up on screen right now and talk about them. It's got to be 42 to 48 inches off the ground. You've got to put the P-trap no lower than what it says on the screen. I don't remember. I'll have to look at it. And you've got to have at least 6 inches. So my drain will go somewhere in that area. Drain will go all the way up into the vent too. And it's got to be a sand tee, the same you do like a lavatory. I've got to have 6 inches of pipe here before the trap weir. The trap weir is like the edge of it where it stops. So I've got a P-trap. If it's not 6 inches or more, and then up to 5, you get a S-trap effect, and it does weird stuff or can do weird stuff. So we don't want to do that. And I'm pretty close here. There's not a ton of room, but I've measured it, and I think we're going to be just fine. And if not, there's other ways you can get around that, but we should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and rough this in. I think I'll put it on time lapse so you can just see what I'm doing. But this is the power inlet. That's the water inlet. I'm going to put some holes in here, and my manifolds will be in this situation, and my water heater will be there. It'll be under cabinets, so all this will be open. I need to get a piece of plywood and put it in there. I don't know if I have anything here. Sorry, I'm thinking as I'm doing this, but I might just rough in my manifolds and then do the rest of that later. But I'll put you on time lapse. You'll see me hook this thing up. Okay, now that I've done that, you saw my snafu where I don't ever want them to touch. They can rattle against each other. And somebody in the comments I know is going to say, where are your arresters? Some places you're supposed to have them. I don't think it makes much difference. I can't even say that, but I've never had a house that had them, and I don't understand why you really need them. Maybe somebody can comment on that. But where I'm at, like when they inspect stuff, I've never seen these locally. So I'm just kind of going with the ones without it. Because one, it's one more failure point, and two, they're way more expensive. So this box right here is like $25 and the arrestor one's like 40. So every little thing adds up, and I might change my mind later, but for now, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to put it on time lapse and just finish out as much as I can of the manifold for today. Okay, now I'm going to show you the shower valve. And so I like to set things up before I get to the wall in a space like this. And there's a few components. So here's the valve body. Here's the actual valve, and it's got this rough end plate. And there's instructions on mine that say that I've got to position this thing in such a way that this distance, the edge of this to the finished wall, is 1.25 inches. And so I've figured all that out. Hold on. Figured all that out, and I'm going to rough it in. And so I always read instructions because whatever. There's a few things about what I'm doing that you're probably not going to be real happy about, but it doesn't matter. I say that because I've done a lot of research. I'm fairly certain that what I'm doing is going to work and be right and whatever. And what I'm talking about is I'm going to use this PEX rough-in. And a lot of instructions on these say don't do this. And because they do that because it restricts the flow so much that you'll get back pressure up the standpipe for the shower and it'll drip and stuff. The thing is, and I confirmed this with a plumber today that does this day in, day out, if it's expansion PEX, which this is, and I wish I had a crimp PEX fitting, because a crimp PEX fitting could almost fit inside of this. I mean, it just barely, 1 millimeter less than it would go on that. And what I'm trying to say is it's not as restricted. Expansion PEX, the fittings are such that they're like a size up, at least from 1/2 inch, whatever. You get what I'm saying? So there's not an issue with that. Some people might think so. Expansion PEX, it's not the same as the other kind, the original kind, PEX B. So with that said, I'll probably stop talking to show you me doing this, but I'm going to build this out. This valve, I think it can go either way. If not, I'll have to figure it out. But I'm going to end up putting these adapters, because this isn't a PEX manifold. I bought this whole kit. I'll show it to you later. That's like a whole shower thing. It has the hardware and everything, like the finished pieces, and I got a good price on it. This is a Kohler valve body and setup, but I'm going to use these 1/2 inch MPT to PEX A, 1/2 inch PEX A adapters that go on like this. And to do that, I'm using Teflon tape. I've seen lately where people will use Teflon tape and the pipe dope. I feel like that's kind of weird, but I don't know. But this stuff I like. It's called Blue Monster. I don't know if you can see that. It's expensive, but it does the job well. So I'm going to time lapse this and show you just me putting it together right now. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm going to do to rough this in to actually install it on the wall where it's going. All right, so I've got everything set up. I've got my laser, a backer board for the valve. I've got one set up for the tub spout, and you can't see it's out of frame, but for the top there, and I'll show you that. I don't have all the pieces I need, but so now I'm just going to probably do a combination of time lapse and talking to you about some of what I'm doing. So I'll start with the valve, wherever I put that. Oh, here it is. Here's the valve. I'm going to make sure that the arrows, the up and down arrows, because it's tub, diverter, and then the shower standpipe. So I've got a line that you probably can't see in my laser to try to help me get it close. And I'm going to use the built-in holes, making sure not to damage the threads because they're threaded, to kind of temp this in place and hold it while I do what I'm doing here. So, and the laser helps me with a little bit of that because it's hard to see what's what. For all you haters, I ran out of red pipe just using that. Really on the rough end, it doesn't matter. There are certain places that I think they make you make sure that the colors are red and, you know, they represent what's going through it, but not here. We're in the country. So I got my PEX gun. And once this is all in place, I'll put a clamp there and clamp to the wall to keep it from moving around. I capped these off because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do the other day, but I wanted to have options. I like this PEX again. I've said this a few times because, you know, the other kind, it's harder to get it to bend without kinking, and you have to put a 90 in it. With this, I'll put, honestly, with that soft of a 90, you don't need anything, in my opinion. If you had a harder 90, a harder turn, you could do different stuff, but that's just what I'm doing, so. Okay, and then for the standpipe, I don't have my drop ear, so I'm just going to put a piece wild and kind of leave it. I might put another board in here so I can clamp it to it, or I've got to put like one more stud in here anyway, and I might attach it to that. I don't know. I've got my stud here. It's a 2x6 wall, and it's probably not. It needs some more support. There's a rafter and all that over it, and so I'm going to add that as close as I can to the middle to support everything else that needs supported. So I'm going to grab a piece of pipe and do that. This is the last piece of pipe I've got left of this 1/2 inch. And if anybody's wondering, I bought, you can't see it, but I bought a 10-foot stick of the white just to come out of the wall for the toilet. But this is all I've got left in essence. And so 300 feet for a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. And that's running a manifold system. If you did the kind where you do a 3/4 inch trunk line and then branches off of it, you could get away with a lot less than that. But this pipe is pretty cheap. I think it's $40 for a 100-foot roll or something. Then the last part, I'm going to do drop for the tub spout. And yeah, I know somebody's going to comment, you're not supposed to put PEX on that part of it, but the instructions don't say anything about it. And also, I talked to a plumber this morning and was explaining to me about what I kind of already knew to be true, but they use it all the time with what I'm about to show you, a copper, where is it? This thing. And so the fittings are such that this has enough flow that it doesn't restrict it. The thought is don't use PEX because it restricts it and it causes it to go up and kind of backfeed and drip. But with the expansion PEX, the fittings are big enough you don't get that effect. And so for the measurements, you want to go 3 to 6 inches above the top rim of your tub. The higher up you go, the more splash you get, supposedly. So I'm going 6 inches thereabouts from the tub height. The tub is 14 1/4, and it sets on the subfloor, so you can measure off that. And then this is 34 inches, which is pretty standard, 32, 33, whatever. Some people like them a little higher. I think it looks funny if you get too crazy, but it'll end up being about like that. I'm gonna measure it right now. Well, I finally got everything I need to pressurize the drain, or not the drain, but the water lines to see if I've got any leaks. Just going to show you again. It's been like a week, but this is my hot and cold inlet. I don't have my water heater yet. And so I just looped them, and that way I've got the whole system connected. And then I saw this on YouTube because I was wondering how in the world am I going to test this, because I don't have my water hooked up yet. And so I don't want any leaks. But what I've got, and I'll take a picture of the items that I've bought to make this happen, but let me explain it. So what's happening here is because, oh wow, didn't know that did that. I guess it tells you where. Oh, I'm messing things up. But I've got this dial. This gauge is from YouTube, or not YouTube, good Lord almighty. This gauge is from Amazon, and it fits on it like a water hose type thing. This is my washer box. And then this side, so again, blue is cold, red is hot. Hot and cold come together here with the valves, and so this makes a lot of sense. If you can connect cold to hot. So I've got a complete loop of the whole system. And then later, we'll cut those, we'll put stuff in it and hook it to the cold side. Will go into the water heater, and then out of the water heater will go to the red, to the hot, and then there'll be a T on it, and it'll go straight to cold, if that makes sense. So these two, this is the point where these two worlds collide rather. And so this is Amazon. It's like $6. It connects to this size 3/4 inch washer hose or garden hose or whatever. And then this is a combination of things. And I'm going to show you a picture of it because I don't remember, but we've got an air attachment. I think this is 3/8. Then I've got obviously my Teflon tape and a reducer to whatever this size is. And this is the same kind of 3/4 inch fitting. So in essence, my compressor's not on, and I would have pumped it up more, but my compressor is actually jacked up. It won't give me more than that because it's got a leak that I've got to fix. But 65, that's closer to 75 pounds is probably enough. And what happens is you put your hose on here and you slowly open this valve to let air in. And then you use this one to show, and hopefully it didn't move, but no, it's not moving. So I opened it and you can close it. And the thing is, you can leave this overnight, come back the next morning and open this valve. And if you open it and it's got a dip, you've got a leak somewhere. So this is a way you can pressure test the whole system. While we're here, I did all the drain stuff and didn't film any of it because it was super hard to get into the house and do that. But again, I'm not a plumber, so this is inspirational, not educational, but I talked to my plumber and there's some things about a drain. This is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, or at least the most rules, but you've got to have, I'll put the picture on right now, but this was kind of my guide on what code is, but you've got to have at least 6 inches from the bottom of the P-trap to the floor there. And then this distance from the weir, which is right there, to there, can't be less than 6 inches and can't be more than 5 feet. And then also you're supposed to put a clean out. And the diagram I have, it puts it below, but I talked to my plumber. He said he'd rather have it above, especially given what's going on there. Okay, and so then all this has to be 2 inch. Your standpipe for the washer drain has to be between 18 inches and something. I don't know. The picture will say it. And then I've got 2 inch all the way up. And I put in a Studer valve AAV, and I'm going to have an access panel behind it. This is a 2x6 wall, so there's lots of room. So that'll be in the closet. I've downsized it to a 1.5 inch because that's what I had. That's probably not legal, but it should fly. If it doesn't, you can open the little thing, cut it out, put another one in, and I'll test it before I get too far down. But that's the drain situation for that. Let me show you the other. So this is the kitchen, and I've got 1.5 inch, and it's coming up to the floor because I can do that with the cabinet situation. And my drain, I think it's set at 20 inches. I don't remember, but then you've got to be. You can use an AAV where I'm at, and it has to at least be 6 inches above the trap. And this is way farther. That's as high as I could get it. That's what he told me to do. My plumber said, get it as high up there as you can. And so I've got a line there that's telling me where the end of the cabinets are. And hopefully it fits. If it doesn't, I'll cut it out and I'll try again. So that's the vent and the drain for the kitchen. And then the bathroom group, I've got tub shower combo. So this is an 1.5 inch drain that I haven't done yet. That's what you're supposed to do. If it's a shower, it's got to be 2 inches. And again, I'm not a plumber, but this is what I've learned. My water closet is a 3 inch because it's got a long sweep. And then I've got 1.5 inch for that. And this is just a regular vent up through the ceiling. So I'm going to go under and do my best to show you underneath, but it's kind of hard to see. All right, so I'm under the house, and that piece of Romex is just holding the pipe right now. I ran out of hanger wire, whatever it is, and I got to finish that. We also left this open because this is the last fixture in the trunk, and then it's going to go down and towards septic. But that's the washer. I notice I've got a little bit of a bump up in there. I'm going to have to lower that. But I did pretty good. I set up my laser level, and you can, let me see if I can get, there we go. You see the light at the end of it? That's a good sign. And it's easier to see here, like in person, but you got to have a pretty good slope on it. I think I've got, I don't know, minimum is 1/8 of an inch over 10 feet or something like that. And what I did is I just measured down from my floor joist to it and then measured to get my slope. And it's got a little bit of a bump in it. That pipe was actually a little bent. And so I'm going to take and lower that hanger a little bit. I used a laser level to try to get my line so all the fixtures were on a line. Sorry, this is so shaky. It's really hard to do under here. That's why I didn't film it. But let me show you the rest. Here's my water lines. I'm pretty proud of that. They're pretty straight. Here is the, where am I at? The kitchen. It's a kitchen sink, 1.5 to 3. This is a 3-inch trunk line with a combo. You got to have that. You can't use you got to use the right fittings when you're going horizontal to vertical. I don't know what the code is, like the specific one, but these are not to be used in place of a Santee and vice versa. You can't use a Santee situation there. And the fittings look similar. And so you got to understand, like, because of that long sweep on it, or if you have a Y with a street fitting, like a street 45 or whatever it would be. But this gives you the best flow into your trunk line, I guess is what you're thinking. Here's another one, same fitting. That's the toilet water closet. It's a 3x3. And then I haven't put it in yet, it's sitting there, but I've got another piece of 3-inch pipe and the 1.5 combo. And then the end of it, there'll be a clean out so that you can snake the whole thing easily. And so that, in essence, is all the plumbing.